So, life and death, as in your whole life, and then when it ends. Think of 2 points on a cloth, and, you know, the cloth remains. You put a third point on the cloth. Now, all of a sudden, you have relativity from the perspective of not only two observers and each other, but relativity in reference to the bigger system, because triangulation gives you a second dimension. A triangle is a a two-dimensional shape, you understand? So now we have structure where we can locate the coordinates of any point within the structure by measuring its distance from the line that separates the inside of the triangle from the outside of the triangle. Life and death are like 2 points on a cloth. And the triangle represents the mind, which I think is interesting. If you look at sacred geometry, you'll see that a prime number, 3, is the first prime number. Well, 3 is the first prime number that can exist in space, because, like we just displayed, 2 points are not a shape. There's no structure. 3 is the magic number because it's the oscillation of the energies that are causing your brain to be able to form quantum consciousness. Triangles are the three-dimensional representation of what could be considered, the growth, the development of life throughout the dimensions, as in from a dot to a line to a triangle to a cube. Now we have time involved in this platonic solid. And now cubes can take us with sacred patterns and mandalic designs into a situation where we can now, with 5+ dimensional things like hypercubes. Now, if you're not into science mumbo jumbo and, don't want to acknowledge states of consciousness that can have people observing things that are not made out of material, you're not going to care about any of this. But if you believe that hypercubes are observable by human beings in altered states of consciousness, I think that it is safe to say that if you take a cube and truncate the corners basically with lines to create triangles at each point, and then you draw circles in the center of each cube, just like the Greeks discovered pi and its infinite nature of precise measurements of a circle. Side note, pi does repeat itself. It repeats itself infinitely within itself, infinite times at different points. But back to what I'm saying, these mandalic patterns represent doors that beings have in their psyches that can allow them to interact with things that are not four-dimensional. And Carl Jung probably suspected this. I know Alan Watts knows all about this. Terence McKenna. And these are people that now modern scientists are looking to try to define quantum consciousness. And sacred geometry is the way to go, because sacred geometry leads to structures like the flower of life, which without structure in a world made up of thought or, intention or magic or whatever it is, when you're viewing beyond these doors, that's not real shit. It's not made out of stuff. So it doesn't abide to the laws here. You know what I mean? It needs a structure in order that it might be observable by the person experiencing that.